This is 4th generation Ford Mondeo, a car we had to wait for in Europe almost 2 years. Launched in January 2012 at the Detroit Auto Show, the new Ford Mondeo is also known as the Fusion in the US. In Europe, Ford delayed the new Mondeo debut from early 2013 to late 2014. The delay allegedly resulted from moving production from one factory to another, although there was some talk about quality control issues. If you complain about the lackluster design of the Volkswagen Passat, you should enjoy the looks of the new Mondeo. The front is often compared to Aston Martin because of the large chrome grille and narrow headlamps. Here, optional Ford dynamic LEDs, which automatically adjust range of the beam depending on the conditions and driving direction. From the side, you can see how big the new Mondeo really is, and it is almost 10 centimeters longer from the previous generation, even if the wheelbase remains the same. Anyway, it also remains the longest in the segment, so there was no need to change it. At first glance, the rims don't look big, but these are actually optional 18-inch alloys, whereas normally you get 16-inch rims or 17-inch for the titanium spec. In the back, you'll notice the new lights, and in case of this example, the EcoBoost badge. We'll get back to that in a moment. The boot opens and closes electrically and can be operated with a key fob. This option costs around €450 or is a part of one of the option packages. Boot capacity increased only slightly to 541 liters. I don't like the finish. I bet this cheap boot floor saves a lot of weight and it is easy to remove and clean, but I don't like to see cables and metal. By the way, there's a fuel funnel deep down in there, and all the tools are hidden under the space saver spare. Back seats folded, there is no flat loading surface, but you get easier access to the funnel, which would be hard to reach from the other side. While closing the backrests, mind the seatbelts, which are sort of like airbags. In case of a collision, they expand and absorb energy better than ordinary seatbelts. While we're in the back, take a look at these little plastic elements here that are supposed to protect the upholstery when you're mounting a child seat, an ISOFIX child seat. Now, this is a very good idea, but I managed to push one of these plastic protective elements under the upholstery, and now I can't take it out. So it was a very good idea from the start, but the execution, well, it didn't work out as well. And if I manage to push it in, then your kids will definitely manage to push this thing in. There is a lot of legroom in the back, even now with the seat slid backwards. With power seats option, the driver's seat goes back when you turn the ignition off, making it easier to get in and out. But headroom in the back is scarce. In the front, you get a new dashboard with digital dials, and on the center console there is the optional Sync 2 infotainment system, which will call for help in case of an accident. Dealing with the menus between the dials is relatively straightforward, but the information on the center console is too crowded. There is too much of it, and the letters are too small. Good thing you can specify this car with all sorts of collision warning and mitigating systems. On the plus side, there is big storage under the center console, and I can access it from the side, like in a Volvo with a floating console, and I can also access it from the front. So that's better. There are also two large cup holders. There is storage in the armrest. It is quite big, and there are two USB ports. There is a 12-volt socket, and there is also a large glove box here in front of the passenger. Now, on the minus side, I don't like the plastics down there in the door bins. They're quite cheap and nasty and scratchy. Not as good as up here. And then there is another problem. I mentioned the sliding power seat. Now, as you would expect, when I press the starter button, the seat will go back in its right direction. However, to start the car, I have to press the brake and the clutch, and I can barely reach the pedals in this position. Earlier on I mentioned the EcoBoost badge on the boot lid. What does it mean? Also, Ford is downsizing, and in Europe the Mondeo comes with a 1.5 or a 2-liter petrol engine, or a 1.6 and 2-liter diesel, with power ranging from 115 to 240 horsepower. There is also a hybrid, which costs about 35 grand, so that's not cheap. So a lot will depend on the local incentives. Let me know in the comments below if buying a hybrid makes sense in your market. Here, under the bonnet, I have the 1.5 160 horsepower EcoBoost engine. It's good for 0 to 100 km per hour time of just above 9 seconds. The 240 Nm of torque is available from just 1500 revs, so you don't have to shift the gears all the time, especially if you're driving around town. With the driver, the Mondeo weighs just below 1.5 tons, well, probably slightly more than 1.5 tons with me behind the wheel. Still, this is one of the lightest cars in the segment. The manufacturer promises this car will do less than 6 liters per 100 kilometers in the combined cycle and slightly less than 8 liters in the urban cycle. This time I drove mostly in traffic, so my readout should be more or less representative of the urban cycle figure, and I'm averaging between 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers in the urban cycle. This car is also equipped with the adaptive damping system. You have to look through the menu here between the dials, but yes, it's somewhere down there. It took me a while to find it, but I found it. So the settings are comfort, normal and sport, or dynamic. For me, I think it's either dynamic or comfortable. In comfort mode, as you'd expect, the car is very comfortable. It's quite pleasing to drive. And in dynamic mode, it's more like a Mondeo, not very crashy, it's not as dynamic as I would expect, but it's almost fun to drive. I was rather surprised with all the wind noise at motorway speeds. There is a lot of noise around the side mirrors, and that's not something I particularly like. When I'm driving at motorway speeds and I'm talking to my passenger, we both have to raise voices. How does the Mondeo drive? Well, I'm afraid nowadays a growing number of cars drive very similarly to one another. In the past, the Mondeo was a benchmark when it came to handling, but now I can't really say what the Ford engineers wanted to achieve with this car. The Mondeo is not overwhelming. It takes me from A to B, and I guess it does it quite well. But if you're looking for something more involving, take Mazda 6 out for a test drive. This car is also equipped with the Ford Dynamic LED lights. What do? Well, first of all, they adapt to my driving direction, so they will light the corners better, and what they also do is they avoid blinding the oncoming traffic, which is good for the oncoming traffic, not necessarily good for me. However, if you're a fleet manager, as part of your corporate social responsibility, you might want to have cars which are safer not only for your drivers, but also for other drivers. That's CSR for you. Prices of D-segment cars start at around 25,000 euros, and then everything depends on the spec. This titanium Mondeo starts at 30 grand and has another 15 grand worth of options on it because Ford wanted to show off all it's got. I guess when Ford first presented the new Mondeo in 2012, it was a big deal. Now it's a decent car, but with some tough competition to beat. Watch more of my reviews and subscribe to my channel. Rate, comment and share my videos. New episodes every Friday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.